Welcome to UNCA's presentation on free speech. Before we begin, I want to go over our objectives for this presentation. From this presentation, you will gain an understanding of how free speech and social justice issues coexist. Take a moment to read the UNC Asheville mission statement, focusing on the bolded text. This language communicates a commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, free expression, and critical thinking. That means proactively creating an environment that's inclusive to everyone. It also means that every member of our community shares a responsibility in making this happen. Although you may be viewing this training alone, it's important to understand why we use group norms. The list of group norms is not our expectations of you. It is more your expectations of each other. Talking about difficult and sensitive topics can sometimes feel uncomfortable, and we've found that when a group can agree upon norms of an environment, it helps create an experience where everyone can participate more fully. For this session, we want to propose a few strategies listed below that we feel can help ensure our dialogue remains civil. Listening for understanding. What is the person attempting to say? Vegas rules. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? So what's said here stays here. Conflict with civility. Critique the position, not the person. And own your intentions and your impact. A great way of doing this is by using I statements instead of we/they statements. The goal of social justice education is full and equal participation of all groups in a society that is mutually shaped to meet their needs. Social justice includes a vision of society that is equitable and all members are physically and psychologically safe and secure. In other words, social justice strives for a co-created society that is safe, equitable, and where all people are able to meet their needs. The purpose of us discussing social justice is to ensure that we are using consistent language when we're communicating with one another, and to encourage the creation of solutions that benefit everyone. Before beginning this activity, please look over the free speech rubric to familiarize yourself with what is considered free speech. Please look over the scenarios in the next 2 slides and decide whether or not it is an act of protected free speech. While going through the scenarios, answer the following questions. Who may have been impacted by the initial act? What actions do you intend to take to ensure the environment or community is an inclusive space going forward? And how does your solution seek inclusivity? Take a moment to read over this scenario and answer the questions we proposed. Take a moment to also read over this scenario and answer the questions we proposed. Normally, we would ask participants to share their statements with the group, but even if this isn't possible at the moment, reflect on your answers. How does your solution strive for a co-created solution that is safe, equitable, and where all people are able to meet their needs? Both scenarios are examples of protected speech. If you disagree with the protected speech in the scenarios, how did you work through those feelings of personal offense to provide recommendations for action? Thank you for participating in this session. To wrap up, I wanted to give some closing remarks. It's important to understand that each of these scenarios involve acts of questionable but protected speech. Each of those offensive statements was then met with a demand or response. Although it may be easier for us to focus on big issues, like a controversial speaker or protest, it's typically smaller interactions like these that have a bigger impact on our community and campus climate. Our goal in providing you these scenarios was to encourage you to think about how free speech and expression could be used as a tool for change. Though it's important for us to acknowledge harm, it's also important for us to use these incidents as opportunities for positive change. When our focus is solely on the negative aspects of free speech, we create environments that inhibit constructive conversation. To combat this, you must think beyond your initial feelings about a topic and recognize the opportunity for dialogue. We wanted you to think about your ability to respond thoughtfully to opposition instead of reacting negatively or disengaging completely. People don't want to offend, so they avoid engaging in meaningful dialogue. On the other end of the spectrum, we have people who say whatever they want with no regard to the impact or harm it may cause to others. Instead, we should seek a balance between openly expressing ourselves and at least thinking about what comes out of our mouths.